It's Beer O'Clock, and this is a very special Beer O'Clock show. No, Steve isn't going to ski jump over a shark like Elvis. Not that kind of special episode, but it is instead our much anticipated, by us anyway, Homebrew special. Joining me, as always, in a candlelit powerless shack in the middle of Essex, is my beer mentor, Steve. Hello, Steve.
Hi, Mark. How you doing?
I'm doing okay, mate. How are you?
Yeah, dark, cold,
Yeah.
scared, lonely, all those sorts of things that come with having no power.
How is the Middle Ages?
It's awful. It's quite literally, you step outside the house and you can't see a hand in front of your face.
Oh dear. We have an absolute shitload of guests. We usually have one, maybe two sometimes, but we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tonight. Joining us is an old friend of the show and certified bona fide #1 fan, DOODY from the Still Thinking Brewery. How are you, DOODY?
Hello.
How you doing?
Good.
Very good.
Still coming down off the weekend's antics with Steve.
Oh yeah, you had a pair up, didn't you? Up in Buxton. Also along for the ride is someone who gave Steve beer last year and is now a friend for life, Andy from Elusive Brewing. Hello, mate.
Evening.
Just down the road from me in South London is the homebrewing couple extraordinaires from Crema Brewery, Chris and Emma.
Hello.
Hello. And finally, our final homebrewer, Andrew Drinks. Yeah,
Hello.
how you doing? So we have 4 different beers to try tonight. They're all made by our guests. We have the Monarch from Still Thinking, the Red Snow Rye from Crema, Simcoe's Citra Big Double IPA from Elusive Brewing, and a Black IPA from Andrew Drinks. Is that right?
Yes, that's right.
Okay. So, we're not going to have the normal beer chatter and all that kind of crap, so we're going to go straight into the beer. The first one up on the roster is the Monarch from DOODY. So, DOODY, tell us a little bit about your beer.
It's a saison hopped with Amarillo and Nelson's Sauvignon.
Okay. So what, is this a saison style beer, is it?
Yeah.
Okay. So is this the beer that you described when you were on the show last time? Is this the one that they used to give the farmhands so they could actually stay hydrated during the day?
Yeah, that's as I understand it, although I'm sure one of you guys probably knows a bit better than me.
So tell us about how you got around to brewing this Monarch then.
Well, during the summer, we're getting pretty hot, and saisons are generally fermented at higher temperatures. So I thought, yeah, saison would be a good idea because I didn't have any temperature control at the time.
Okay. Cool. Well, let's pour it out and see what it looks like. And everyone, feel free to chip in with comments.
Got a nice prickly carbonation. I love that in a saison. Really want it to fizz on the tongue.
Yeah, I certainly imagine that it would be pretty refreshing. There's not much sweetness there.
Yeah, you could really imagine doing that on a summer's day. Actually, I think that would work really well.
Yeah, it's a nice manageable ABV at 5.5 as well. Saisons were traditionally a kind of lowest, quaffable style, refreshing beer, as you said at the start, and this is very enjoyable, even on a cold winter's night like this.
So, Michael, what made you get into home brewing, mate?
When I first got into beer, I kind of thought about it almost immediately, but I thought it would be quite expensive, time-consuming, quite hard to do at home. And I've done a little bit of research, and it turned out to be really cheap. So I just went for it, basically.
How long ago was that?
Done my first kit brew in early February.
Oh, okay, so not very long at all.
No.
How are you finding it? You enjoying it?
Yeah, it's great fun. A lot of cleaning involved, but it's all worth so it's all worth it for the end product.
Very good. So how many different types of beers have you done since February?
I think I've done 3 kits, and then I jumped into all grain. I've done 1 brew in a bag on my stove, and then after that I got some proper kit, you could say, and I've done, I think, the three brews on that so far.
And is this one your latest one, the Monarch?
This was the first proper all grain one that I did with, you know, like a proper mash tun and that.
Okay, well, I'm finding this one really light, really refreshing. This is the kind of beer I like, I think. Mainly
I think
because
it's a really accomplished first attempt as well, Michael. Awesome.
It was kind of inspired by yours, Andy. I was going to do your Nelson saison at first, and then I thought, no, I'll change the recipe and I'll do something that's, you know, kind of truly my own.
That's excellent. Well done.
Yeah, Steve, what do you think of this one, mate?
I think it's really enjoyable, actually. I had one on Friday with Michael as well, and I enjoyed it then as well. It goes down really easily, and it has got that really nice fizz on it as well that just adds something to it, I think. It's a really enjoyable beer, actually.
Yeah, it's really, like I said, it's really light. Quaffable, I think Andy said. Chris and Emma, Crema, what do you guys think of the Monarch?
I really like it. I think it's interesting to have the Amarillo with the Nelson. I'm just trying to work out if I can tell which is which, or if they're both very similar. The Nelson's quite vinous. Amarillo can be quite sweet, kind of almost sickly sometimes. It's a good combination.
Yeah, I've got to say, I really like it, Michael. It's a solid saison, ticks the right boxes, right level of carbonation. It's nice and dry, very easy drinking. It's exactly what you want out of it. It's maybe not traditional flavours, but hey, it ticks the right boxes for what a saison should be. I think we would use this to sort of go on to other things.
Yeah. I will have to confide in you guys that I can't actually tell the difference between hops. So yes, very nicely hopped.
It says it on the bottle what they are.
I know, but I don't.
I definitely get the Nelson on the nose with this one. I don't know what others think, but I think whenever I use Nelson in a beer, it just whatever you dry hop with, whatever you late hop with, Nelson will just power through it all. And for me, I'm getting Nelson on the nose, and as you know, I'm a big fan of it. So I'm a fan of this beer.
Michael, can I just jump in there? You mentioned when you was talking about it, that you've done a kit, an all grain, and a brew in the bag. For those that are uneducated amongst us, what's the difference between the 3 styles of homebrewing?
Kit is basically a concentrated can of malt extract that you dissolve in water and then add some sugar to and ferment it. Whereas with all grain, you're actually mashing the grain and then boiling the water and adding the hops and stuff like that. There is another middle step called extract, which is where you take your own malt extract, which you can get in like dry or liquid, and you boil that up yourself and add the hops, rather than using a kit from a can.
All right, well, the next beer that we've got lined up is one I don't actually have. It's a very exclusive beer, obviously, which is the Black IPA from Andrew Drinks. Who does have this beer? I know Steve has one because he's opening it now. I think DOODY does.
I've got one.
Yeah, I'm sure I do.
We don't. We have to admit we drank ours.
We had one ages ago.
We have had it. It was it.
We weren't given one.
Okay, so who's opening one right now? Is it just Steve, DOODY, and Andrew Drinks, obviously? I'm just going to call you Andrew. Okay, Andy.
Okay, Andrew will do.
So tell us a little bit about this, because I don't have a bottle, so I can't read the label and be very informed. So give some info on it.
So this, as I said, I've struggled with an inventive name for the brewery, and with this beer, I've kind of struggled with an inventive name for the beer as well. So at the moment, I've kind of settled on India Dark Ale. It's a 7.3% black IPA. It's single hop with Simcoe, and it's the first beer I tried to do a hop burst IPA. And by hop burst, I mean instead of having the traditional bittering hops to get the bitterness, and then you have late hops and then dry hops and so on. All the hops for this went in late and then dry, so nothing for bitterness. So yeah, that's the beer.
Okay. So
does that mean that all the hops are purely for flavour then? If they're not for bitterness, they're just for flavour.
Pretty much, and it's surely the volume of hops that have gone in to give you enough bitterness to make it an IPA.
Okay, so who's trying this beer now? Steve, you are.
Yeah, I am.
What do you think?
First of all, it's a little bit lively out of the bottle. First one I tried to pour, not so good, so I had to get another glass. A little bit better that time.
Sorry about that.
It's not your fault, is it? You're not here pouring it. It's really, it's really fresh on the nose. It's got a really nice outdoor scent to it on the nose. Really smooth, really easy to drink. Quite a lot of carbonation in there. Again, which I think might just be taken away from some of the flavour at the moment. Either that, or I've still got some of the Monarch swimming around in my mouth at the moment. And as we all know, I have a problem distinguishing between beers when I try and mix them.
Doody, what do you think?
It's great. It's really, 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 really hoppy, but then a nice underlying roast.
Okay, Andy, you've had this one before, haven't you?
I have, yeah. I remember, I was giving Andrew a very big pat on the back because I think it's a fantastic beer. And the thing that I love about it, first I think Steve picked up on, is the aroma. I think it just climbs out of the glass, and all that late hopping and dry hopping is made for a great smelling beer. But I also remember the flavour. Obviously, as Doody mentioned, you've got the malts playing a part with that roastiness, but primarily it's a hop-led beer, and I think it's a very very good black IPA.
Chris and Emma, you said that you've drunk this before.
Yeah, we had one a little while ago, a few weeks ago,
Yeah, whenever
something like that.
Andrew gave us one.
Yeah, we did a bit of a swap thing.
About a month ago.
Yep, enjoyed it. It's definitely a style, even though it's not an official style. My style of black IPA. No, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, it's very good. So rarely had a beer from Andrew that isn't good. So
Very good. So, Andrew, how did you get into home brewing then?
A little bit kind of by accident. My parents have been making wine and beer, but mostly brewing out of kits, and very much at the sort of like the amateur kind of end of knocking out 40 pints of whatever he could as cheaply as he could. And my parents still now make their own country wine cider, and it was just a case of having most of their equipment there, and I thought I'd buy a kit and borrow some of the fermenters, and then pick it up from there. And a lot of the beers I love are American beers with huge, really punchy kind of hop flavours, which an awful lot of the kits that I could buy really easily didn't really have that. You couldn't really make those beers easily. So then the next step was to then move to buying like kits with bags of hops in, and then all grain.
Okay, you mentioned earlier that this is dry hopped. Can you explain to an absolute and complete brewing layman myself what the fuck is dry hopping?
So basically, traditionally, the hops would have been added during the boil, so you could get the flavour. Use very little because hops are quite expensive. Dry hopping is basically the process of taking hops and adding them to the finished fermented beer, purely so you can get the aroma oils out of the hops, so that they don't contribute any bitterness, they don't really contribute any preservative kind of qualities, but they do contribute a massive amount of aroma oils. So in order to get that really big American IPA kind of like punch out of the glass, you need to add quite a lot of hops after the fermentation's finished, as what you call dry hops.
Okay, so you are putting them actually into the liquid, but you're not boiling the liquid with them.
Yeah, basically the finished beer, you'd add your hops to it, and then you'd let them soak in the finished beer for anything. I've heard of some people leaving dry hops in there for 2 to 3 weeks, just to properly steep. The danger, or perhaps the challenge for the brewer or the home brewer, is to leave the dry hops in for just the right amount of time, so you get all that lovely kind of aroma oil out of them, but you don't get any kind of that grassy kind of over kind of dry hopped kind of flavour that you can sometimes get out of beers. So it's a balancing act between putting the right amount of hops in and for just the right amount of time, and of course the right kind of hops as well.
Okay, so is dry hopping something you do quite often with your beers, or is it something you tried out with this one?
Pretty much all of my beers I do tend to dry hop. The only exceptions would be perhaps beers that've got a particular yeast character to them, or a particular character that the hops would kind of mask by being in there. So some Belgian styles, you perhaps wouldn't want to dry hop that. Imperial stouts, something that you want to mature for a long time. Dry hop character can fade. It can really sort of fall off a cliff after a couple of months. So anything that you don't want to drink really, really fresh, you wouldn't dry hop.
Right. Okay, cool. Does anyone else have any comments or questions for Andrew?
Yeah, this is Andy. I've drunk a few of your beers, Andrew, and I've enjoyed all of them. I think. What's your favourite one you've brewed?
I'm gonna give 2 different answers. The favourite one that I brewed, probably as a beer that I could drink every single day of the week, was a saison that I brewed earlier in the year, which had some garden herbs in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's a regular saison, but it's a very pale saison with some spelt grain in, which is sort of like an oldie worldy kind of wheat. And I added some parsley, sage, and thyme, and rosemary from the garden right at the end of the boil when I was cooling it. And it has this great aroma. It's kind of blackcurrant aroma to it, which is it's sort of a really nice to drink beer. And then at the other end of the scale, I brewed last Christmas I brewed a very, very strong beer called the Mega Beer, which is sort of a clone of 120-minute IPA from Top of the Shed, which is somewhere around the 20+% ABV mark. Just partially as an experiment, and partially because I really wanted to have a 120-minute IPA, and it turned out surprisingly well.
Yeah, I think you're talking that down. It was awesome. And we did a side-by-side with a 120-minute IPA, and a good number of people around the table picked your beer. I think that's pretty awesome. So I think you're aiming to out dogfish.
That's pretty cool.
We've got to say we've tried both as well, and they're both superb beers. The Mega Beer is one to not maybe drink too much of.
Next beer up is one from the Crema Brewery. It is the Red Snow Rye, which is a strong red rye ale, 7.3%. This is from your bottling back in May. I know all this because it's all on the label very kindly. So, Chris and Emma, this is your beer. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about how you came to brew this and such like.
This one was a bit of an experiment. We brewed a beer. I think it was our third beer we'd ever brewed. It was called Red Snow, and it was like a hoppy red ale. And we thought, I wonder what this would be like with some rye in it. So we threw in some rye, and really completely changed the flavor profile of it. So it's almost like made like a completely different beer. So yeah, we like with Andrews, we're big fans of American beers, and we wanted to sort of showcase like some big American Pacific Northwest hops. So we sort of wondered how that would play with the sweetness of the rye. We've had a couple of rye beers like this Red Rocket Rye from Air Republic, and a few others as well. But I can't recall just off the top of my head. Oh yeah, Beaver Tiny Ball. So we really like rye beers, and we wanted to give one a go. So that was kind of the genesis of this one.
Okay. It pours very dark. Should it be that dark, or is my bottle? Have I poured it wrong?
It's mine.
Okay, yeah, mine's about the same. Good.
I've held mine up, but it's in the dark.
Yeah, light. It's quite. It's very rare to hold mine up to the light now. You can see it's pretty red.
Yeah.
I can get my lantern. There you are.
What's it like by candlelight, Steve?
Yeah, it's red.
Oh, can you hold the lantern up for me, mate? That was really good.
There you go.
Cheers, buddy. Okay, so it is supposed to be this dark. Very good.
Yeah.
Okay, well let's. When I poured it out, I could get that aroma straight away. That was really rich. I almost thought it was kind of like a winey smell. The kind of really rich winey smell. Okay.
Yeah. It was originally, it was dry hopped back when we brewed it with quite a lot of Citra and Chinook hops. So as you stated, Mark, it's got quite old now. So like as Andrew said, after a few months, dry hopping aroma tends to fall away quite heavily. So it's interesting to see how this beer has aged with the high ABV. But we both feel that it's aged quite well, and it's kind of taken on some different flavors and different aromas.
Yeah, I think it's just kind of softened. It's not as maybe in your face as it was when we first brewed it. And the hops have fallen away. The rye character's still there. It's just a more kind of gentle beer than it was.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me just say, I can tell that it's a higher ABV beer. It's quite boozy to me. That's a term I like to use for beers when I can't describe exactly what it tastes like, except that they're strong. They're quite boozy.
You're not getting the urge to scull it, are you?
No. I kind of sculled DOODY's one. Well, I did that in about 7 minutes. So I'm trying to slow down now. I have a show to record, Stephen. What do you think of this one, Steve?
I really like it. I was lucky enough to have it a few months back as well, which I think was shortly after the guys had bottled it. I had it just at the end of the summer with a barbecue, and it was absolutely perfect. It just went perfectly with barbecued meat and that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. I agree with what Emma just said there. It just does seem to have aged really well, and it's eased a little bit, and it's a very, very easy drinking beer now.
Okay, it's still quite strong to me, but I'm a pussy. So, Chris and Emma, tell us how you came about with. Obviously, the Crema Brewery is named after yourselves. How did you get started in homebrewing? Because you've won, was it an award you won recently, or you won a place in a competition? So you do take this a little bit more seriously than someone just perhaps at DOODY's level that is just getting into.
I don't know. You've got another award winner in Andrew Drinkwater. There's another bronze medalist in the National Homebrew Award. So we don't put down our nose on anyone. No, I don't think we take it any more seriously. I mean, anyone's allowed to enter homebrew competitions. You don't have to achieve a certain level of performance or anything before you're allowed to enter. We've been brewing for almost a year, so maybe not even 12 months yet.
Yeah, Emma bought me whenever we were in the States last year, actually in Oregon, trying some fantastic beers that we probably could have done a lot more with. We knew what we were actually drinking, but Emma bought me a book of John Palmer's How to Brew for my birthday, and that kind of is where we started. We got an extract kit, brewed a American Pale Ale, got worked well, and it built our confidence to then go straight on to all grain brewing, and that's what we've pretty much been doing since. Don't ask us how many beers we've brewed.
How many do you think you've brewed?
About maybe 12, somewhere between 12 and 15. We chucked a couple of batches.
Doody, what do you think of the Red Snow Rye, mate?
Yeah, it's fantastic. I had it a few months ago as well. Chris and Emma sent me 4 of the beers at great expense, and yeah, it was really nice then, and you can definitely tell that it's changed now. It is a bit less hoppy on the nose, but it's still a fantastic beer. It seems like just round it out more, maybe.
It's very well balanced now. You get a lovely soft bitter aftertaste to it that just works really well.
I described the beer that we did last week, which was what was it, Steve?
It was the red
rocket, as being a red
rocket,
having a red taste. This has a red taste to it.
You're still going with that, then?
You guys know what I mean. Hopefully. And
the last one tasted black, but you didn't have that. So.
No, I didn't have that one. Andrew, do you have this one with you?
Is this the Red Snow Rye?
Yes.
Yes, it actually fresh. I got to try just a taste of it fresh, and it really did have a big kind of hop punch aroma to it. And it's amazing how not only how much it's changed, but also how much it's changed while remaining a nice beer to drink. It reminds me a little bit of Dogma by Brewdog, in that it's got a nice kind of smooth, malty kind of Scotch ale kind of flavour to it.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of one of the greatest challenges I think for one of the greatest challenges I think for like homebrewers is like trying to get the malt right, and I think the malt's absolutely bang on with this.
Yeah, this is one I think we'll probably brew again. I think it was just an experiment, and it's definitely an experiment that worked. So we're very happy with it. We shared it with the guys from Weird Beard on last Monday night, and they really enjoyed it too. So
it's quite gratifying that it's still nice, even when the dry hop aroma has faded away. You know, that it's nice. A nice beer, different, rounded out, but it's still good. Andy,
have we got your thoughts on the Red Snow Rye?
Yeah, no, it's interesting, as Andrew said, Scotch ale. Yeah, I completely agree. And particularly the nose now. It's got actually initially I thought it's kind of it's got that nice malty profile you get with almost stout-like, but you can definitely get the rye on the aroma, and now the hop's faded a bit. And again, I tried this a few months ago, and then it was much more hoppy to the nose. Now it's faded a bit. It's much more malty on the nose, and dare I say, better for it. Maybe I'm sticking my neck out, but I really enjoyed it. So well done, guys.
Yeah, it's a very nice beer, guys. Well done.
Thank you very much.
I'm just going to finish mine off. Well, moving on to the final beer of the night is one from Elusive Brewing. This is Andy's beer, which is a 9%. Whew. 9%.
Good night, Mark.
Good night. I'm going to 2 beers down. Double IPA. This is using Simcoe and Citra hops, and 3 different types of malt. Andy, tell us a little bit more about this beer, mate.
Yeah, this one was a bit of a bonkers experiment around. I think how much Simcoe and Citra I could squeeze into a beer. It was, I brewed the first all-grain beer I brewed was a double IPA, and that turned out pretty well. And I wanted to revisit that kind of style. But I happened to have a lot of Simcoe on hand, and wanted to start to use some of it up. So this is the result, and it's a double IPA, as it said, and used 200 grams of hop, 100 grams of each into the boil, and additional 100 grams of each as a dry hop. It's turned out a bit bit more boozy than the first double IPA I brewed. So yeah, it kind of weighs in at 9%. It was brewed. I don't know when it was brewed. It's probably been in the bottle about 2 months now, maybe 2.5. Yeah, that's the story of the beer.
Cool. Am I right in saying that all these beers are unfiltered? And is that
Yeah.
why they're a bit cloudy? It's not my shitty pouring.
No, I think you're right. I mean, I don't think any of us are finding our beers and don't really have anything which to filter them. So what you get is what you get. Particularly with the hoppier beers, it's harder to get them to drop clear. A lot of hop debris in the beers, and yeah, this one's it's pretty cloudy. But then I think most double IPAs you try generally have a bit of a haze to them, unless they've been centrifuged and other bits of expensive processing you can do to try and clean them up a bit.
I think DOODY and I learned there's an official term for the cloudiness that we learned at the weekend when we was up at Buxton, and it's apparently called the craft haze. So yeah, this looks like a good beer. It smells good as well.
Yeah, it does smell very nice.
Really fresh, really outsidey again.
I think I can. Is it the Citra hops I can smell on the nose?
Yeah, it's a Citra. I think it was actually a Citra and Simcoe dry hop, 1-to-1, 100 grams of each. But I think this year's Simcoe's a bit disappointing, to be honest, and he's really lacking that piney character you'd expect from Simcoe. But the Citra's there, I think. Yeah, I think that's what you can smell.
It smells a little bit like, and I'm sorry to do this comparison, but it smells a little bit like the red Fanta that you get. It's got that lovely tropical fruity smell to it. I'm not saying it smells like a red fruit drink.
They must dry hop that with Citra then.
Yeah.
The beer aficionado, ladies and gentlemen. This smells like red Fanta.
Well,
So, Andy, how long have you been doing the whole homebrew thing, mate?
The first, this is a bit of a story, I suppose, because a bit of a paradox in it. The first beer I homebrewed was when I was living in the States, and I brewed an English-style beer because we were missing English-style beers. I was living there at the time, sharing a house with a Scotsman, and we were a bit bored of the American-style beers. I mean, at the time, I wasn't really into craft beer, I must admit, and the stuff I used to drink the most was Coors Light, with the odd bit of Sierra Nevada Pale Ale, but we were missing English-style beers, and I came home at Christmas and bought one of those kits in Boots that I don't think they sell anymore, which was just it was a non-boil kit. I think you just added water and hope for the best. And as you can imagine, we brewed it when I got back, and we opened it on Super Bowl day in February, and it was pretty bloody awful. So we headed back to the bar and drank some more Coors and Sierra Nevada. I got into all grain or brewing back here. It was around about May, I think, of last year or so. So not too long, 18 months or so. I think at the time I'd really started to get back into the American style beers and wanted to have a go at brewing them. And some of you will know Greg Irwin from Now of Weird Beard, and also Dave Bishop, Broadwood Brewer on Twitter, who I'd kind of met and they kind of inspired me to give it a go. So I did. I gave it a go. Went out and bought some all grain kit and had a crack at it. And the first brew I brewed was a clone of Green Flash's West Coast IPA, which is my favourite beer. And it turned out okay. I mean, it got a bronze medal in the London competition last year, which I was pretty chuffed with. And it kind of spurred me on to do more styles, and moved on from there, really.
Cool. Okay. Well, I'm going to chuck into this now. Anyone who started drinking, feel free to give your thoughts. Steve, have you started in on this one?
Yes.
Thoughts, please, mate.
It doesn't taste like red Fanta. That's for sure. It's really easy actually. It's really smooth. You get the aromas coming through on the taste as well. There's a slight bitter aftertaste, but that eases really finished. That goes really quickly. it's sort of creamy finish to it. Really enjoyable beer.
Cool. Chris and Emma, have you had this before? Or was this your first time?
Yes, Andy shared it with us a while back. I think it was an LAB, Andy.
Yeah, just been bottled then. It was flat, I think, if I recall.
Yeah, it seems to have picked up a little bit more carbonation since the last time we tried it. Gotta say, aroma, yeah, it's still pretty punchy. It's such a great beer. It really is nice. Very smooth, very easy drinking. Doesn't feel like 9% to me. You probably drink quite a lot of it, and they end up in sales.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, Chris. That's the one thing that I thought was that doesn't taste 9%, and you could very easily get into a lot of trouble with that.
Andrew, what do you think? Do you have one there with you, or you've had it before?
I've had it before. Andy gave this to me a few weeks ago. Actually, at the same time I had the Red Snow Rye, and I put it in the back of the fridge, thinking I'd leave it until today. And then one night, I saw it in the fridge and forgot why it was there, and I didn't drink it. And it's I can still remember it, thankfully. And I think first of all, it is very, very easy drinking for nearly 10%. It's I think Andy bottles all of his homebrew in 500ml bottles, which is a very, very dangerous thing when they're nearly 10%. And the Citra comes off really nicely in the aroma. The flavour is it's a little bit dry. The hops really pop. To me, it's a great example of a double IPA, and it's I think Andy is consistently brewing really, really high quality beers, beers that are professional quality. And there's so many home brewers. Sort of, Andy mentioned people like Dave Bishop, who they're full of encouragement, but also high quality home brewers. And this for double IPA, this is right up there with anything you could go out and buy that was being brewed in the UK today. I really liked it, Andy.
Thanks very much.
Doody, what do you think of the double IPA?
I think I've spent more time smelling it than drinking it. The aroma for me is almost like smelling a bag of hops, which I've done a lot of on Friday at Buxton. But yeah, it's really nice. It's got a nice bitter, piney, resinous kick to it on the finish, which is just lovely. And like other people have said, it does not taste like 9%.
I disagree. It tastes like 9% to me, but anything beyond water tastes strong to me. It is a very nice. It is. I mean, I don't know how many of the shows you guys have listened to, but I am still relatively new to beer. I mean, I've only been in the real ale game for a year. Before that, I drank Kronenberg. So I've been lucky enough to drink a lot of different beers, and this is very nice. All these beers tonight are very nice. But yeah, it's bloody strong, mate. But it is very nice. It has a nice hoppy profile to it. The smell is amazing. I'm assuming that's the Citra hops on the nose that I'm smelling. Very nice bitterness, but it's a kind of like this is one of my terms. It's like a thin bitterness. It doesn't take over everything. It's like a nice layer on top, and it's just really fresh underneath it. And well done. Yeah.
Cheers.
Nice beer. Chris and Emma, did I get your comments on this one yet?
Yeah.
Yes, we love it.
We love
Very
this beer.
good.
It's a fantastic beer. Well done, Andy. It's
Obviously kicking in.
accomplished.
Yeah, great.
More.
Excellent.
I have a question for Andy.
Yeah.
Andy, I hear that you're in the process of perhaps moving from being a home brewer to perhaps a professional brewer. What's sort of the main challenge that you think you're going to face? Because I'm sure there are a lot of home brewers out there who sort of have that kind of aspiration.
Yeah, that's an aspiration I have, and that was spurred on by the success of Nelson Saison as well, which ended up releasing commercially, and was pretty well received. I think in terms of where I am with it, it's early days. I mean, I'm looking at couple of models at the minute that we're looking at. One is to go down the same route that Brew by Numbers took, if you're familiar with them, which is start on some very small kit and try and create some demand that way. The other way, which I'm looking at, is to look at a cuckoo arrangement, brewing on someone else's kit to get some beer out there. I think the main challenge, and this is something I've talked at length with Greg and Brian of Weird Beard about, is getting hold of hops. It's pretty difficult to. I mean, it's all very well and good brewing a Simcoe Citra double IPA with 400 grams of hops into 20 litres, but you scale that up to 1600 litres, then that's a lot of hops. And the hops you can't get. You can get Simcoe because a lot of the big brewers are sending it back, I think, or not claiming their contracted allotment. But the others, yeah, it's pretty hard to get, and I think that's the difficulty is establishing a set of recipes that not only can you brew well at home, but will actually scale up to anything commercial, quantity. The second biggest challenge is, I think the craft market in the UK is a long way off being saturated, but I mean, I always look to, and something I've written about as well is Magic Rock. I know you guys visited last week, some of you did. In terms of you see a pump clip, you see a bottle of theirs, and it just throws itself at you pretty much. You don't have to. Unfortunately, it looks like it's awesome as well, but they've got that absolutely right, and that's something I think Weird Beard have done well at too. I think those are the two main challenges.
Okay, you say you've had problems getting hold of hops. Is that something that is quite common? Is it difficult generally?
I think, yeah. I mean, the likes of the bigger craft breweries in the UK, your Brewdogs, your Thornbridges, and so on. They're pre-ordering a lot of hops, so they're putting money up front, signing a contract to have those hops delivered, which means there's less available for some of the smaller breweries. So if you're a new brewery coming in, you've got to, if you like, establish yourself with the hop merchants. And start spending some good money before they'll let you at the more sought after stuff maybe. I think for startup breweries it is something you need to be very very conscious of when you're developing your initial recipes. Is make sure you're doing something, you're brewing beer that you can brew to quantity. I mean, you don't want to brew an awesome beer and then have it go down really well and you can't make it again. And that would be a silly situation to get yourself into.
Okay. Steve, do you have any final questions for our home brewers?
I have one question that I'd like to put to everyone, really, which is just if you had one piece of advice they had to give to anybody looking to begin home brewing, what would it be?
Okay, let's start with Andrew. Possibly
not to be intimidated by people who might tell you that you need to start simple and work your way up, because I can remember when I first started with the first kits, I felt immediately really frustrated by the fact that they were really inflexible, that it was basically like start with a can of extract, add some water, chill it, or rather add cold water, I think it was, and then pitch some yeast, and that's it. And I think by the time I did my third brew, I was already onto all grain and having a mash tun and starting with that. And the first thing I did in my mash tun was a 7% coffee and chocolate stout, which is absolutely not the sort of thing you should do as your first kind of brew. But I was frustrated by the idea that I couldn't do the sort of thing that I wanted to brew. So I think the advice I'd probably give to people is that if you read what you can, take as much advice as you can, and be as ambitious as you can. And if it doesn't work, do it again, and keep doing it until you get to where you need to be. Because perhaps I was lucky in that it took maybe 2 or 3 brews before I was there, and maybe some people might take 5 or 6. But certainly, yeah, don't be limited by the fact that you think all grain is too complicated for you. In fact, it's incredibly simple once you become acquainted with the ideas involved, and just don't be intimidated by it, really.
Andy, any advice, mate?
Yeah, I think a good advice from Andrew there. I was guilty of the same, jumping in with a double IPA as my first brew. I think sanitation is the single most important thing in brewing on any scale. So make sure you absolutely have a good sanitary practice. Clean everything, clean it again, and then clean it again for good measure. And get into that habit of, I think we said at the top of the show that cleaning. Brewing is probably 80% cleaning, and that's for good reason. It's very easy to infect a batch. I've done it once myself by not rinsing a chlorine-based sanitizer out and brewed a textbook chlorophenolic beer. Absolutely horrible. It's not good fun to spend a day brewing a beer, waiting a week for it to ferment, 2 weeks to condition, and open it, and it smells like bleach. Practice. Make sure you have a good read and then practice on good sanitary practices.
Chris and Emma, do you have any advice?
We're echoing both Andrew's points, particularly about reading things, read literature about it, get familiar with it. The biggest lesson we have learned is temperature control for fermentation. We've had to dump one batch, and another batch hasn't been particularly what we wanted, just because we didn't bother to control temperature. With the hot summer here in London, it absolutely killed a saison that we brewed before. It was a really nice saison, but we brewed it again. I didn't worry about the temperature control issue, and it was absolutely rank. We had to ditch it. It was horrible. Scored 13 at the UK National Homebrewers thing, so we should maybe release it as saison 13.
Already gone down. I think because we first started brewing in the winter, it didn't really become apparent to us how important temperature control is in fermentation. I mean, even thinking about brewing a saison, you think, yeast likes high temperature, but it doesn't really like it to be almost 35 degrees. So I would say invest. If you're going to get serious about brewing, think carefully about temperature control.
Okay, and DOODY, final piece of advice for our listeners.
I think all the other people have covered all the important bases. I mean, just go for it. Have fermentation temperature control, sanitization. Those are all basically the most important things. I mean, if I can brew a decent beer, and I think any idiot on the street can do the same. So, just basically go for it. It doesn't cost a lot to jump straight into all grain. You can get kits from the big homebrew suppliers for a couple £100 that allow you to jump right into all grain. So, and I mean, my fermentation fridge cost me about £60 in parts, and that's pretty much the most important thing in my setup now. Being able to control the fermentation temperature down to 0.1 of a degree, basically, is pretty important. I'm sure a couple of the other brewers will attest to that.
Yeah, I don't have any temperature control, so maybe I'll I should look to invest in that. But I think what I tend to do is just be selective around what I brew and when. Make sure the temperature matches the yeast, which is really important, and certainly it's on my shopping list of upgrades is temperature control.
I think it depends as well what kind of styles you want to brew. That I think if you're someone who's starting out in home brewing, who's saying, right, I want to brew an amazing lager, then basically you've got to get a fridge. You can't do that at normal temperatures. It's something where you're going to have to keep it cool for a few weeks on end. I think probably the most satisfying beer I've ever brewed, maybe not the best, but certainly one of the most satisfying, was when I brewed a Kolsch, where you ferment that at an ale temperature at sort of 16, 18 degrees. And then you give it like a long lagering period, down to like 2-3 degrees. And it turned out really, really nicely, but it was only down to the fact that I had the fridge, to be able to, lager it properly. And if you're quite comfortable never brewing lager or Kolsch or anything like that, then you can probably get by with just, fermenters in the closet. But yeah, you perhaps think about what kind of things you want to brew.
Steve, any final questions?
No, I'm pretty much done, to be honest with you, in more ways than one.
Okay, well, guys, I'd like to thank you very much for joining us tonight. This has been a great episode. We've never done a show with this many guests before, and this many outstanding beers. Unfortunately, I didn't get to try Andrew's Black IPA. Maybe one day. But Doody, Andy, Chris and Emma, your beers are outstanding, and I loved all of them. And I would happily pay money for these beers. These are really good quality beers. And I'm a bit wobbly, and that's a testament to your brews. Well done.
I'll contest to the quality of the Black IPA then, for Andrew. That was a good beer. I think 4 out of 4 tonight we've had here.
Very good. So once again, thank you, Michael Doody. That is your name, from Still Thinking. Chris and Emma from Crema Brewery, Andy from Elusive Brewing, and Andrew Drinks. You can find him on Twitter. You can find all of these guys on Twitter. This is the Beer O'Clock Show. Thank you very much for listening. You can find us on Twitter at Beer O'Clock Show, and the website is beeroclockshow.co.uk. We have a little special episode coming up with Steve and Doody's road trip to Buxton.
No,
hopefully.
No,
you didn't record anything.
No, I completely
Oh, you
forgot.
prick.
as expected, I drank far too much beer and forgot to do any recording.
Okay, we're not going to get a very special episode. We'll talk about it next week, though.
Yeah, we'll chat about it next week.
Yeah, and we have a Crimbo crawl coming up in December. Stay tuned for even more details on that. And by the time you're listening to this, the Back and Black episode, or the Back and Black Twitter event is going on.
Yeah, we should be well into that.
Far too many beers. I've got another black beer to have, by the way. I can't remember what it was, but never mind. Thanks again, Andy, Andrew, Chris, Emma, and Michael. Thank you very much. A very special show. Cheers.
I didn't plug my TV show appearance.
Were you on TV?
Yeah, TV coming up.
Oh wow.
When is it on?
You should have plugged it, Andy. This was your chance.
I'm still recording. Plug it.
On the Alan Titchmarsh show on, I think it's Wednesday, November the 8th, if Wednesday is an 8th. There'll be they contacted a few homebrewers, but unfortunately I was able to get up there, living local to the studio, to do a little skit on homebrewing, and they did a wine, cider and beer, a little 3-minute segment on the show that was recorded a few weeks ago now. I went on there and gave a quick demonstration of all great homebrewing. It was very rushed, and hopefully I got everything in that I needed to. And I had to make it look very visual. So there's water going in from coming out of the mash tun into the kettle, and I'm chucking hops in and things like that. So try to make it as visual as I could. But have a look at that and watch me just. I'll be at home cringing. It's I think it's 3 p.m. It's on ITV1 on Wednesday the 8th. 6th. You're right. Wednesday the 6th. Thank you.
Right. Well, thank you very much again, guys. That's a wrap. See you all next week.